Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is At the Helm Sports. I'm your host, Derek Helm. Thank you for joining me for episode 137. Please be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave those 5-star reviews. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. In the comments section, tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for the Rocket Mortgage? Because I'm guessing most people are probably somewhere around a 4. I'm probably somewhere around a 6. I think it's nice to finally get one of these birdie fests, a little glorified Corn Ferry event after we've had back-to-back-to-back signature events and majors. But last week, the Travelers was incredible. I did not think it would live up to that much. Now, obviously, have the Tom Kim sweat, and that made things a little more interesting on Sunday. But having all those guys up there on a Sunday and having a shot at it was absolutely thrilling. You know, back-to-back weeks where we've gotten great finishes and great tournaments overall. So really loved the Travelers. Unfortunately, Scotty did what Scotty does and broke all our hearts, and Tom Kim could not come away with the win. Did get the each way. Bhatia kind of fucked up at the end and lost a little bit of his each way, so that got chopped a little bit, but great week overall for me. I mean, from a DraftKings standpoint, I got way up there in the 70K birdie. Came away with a good amount of money this week, so DraftKings and betting was great, which for most of the year it hasn't been, so that was definitely nice. But the Travelers was definitely a great tournament. As far as the signature events go, I mean, I don't want to see these no cut events anymore. They really need to change that next year. I'm not crazy about having 2 signature events with a major sandwiched in between, but if you wanted to maybe do a major before, or a signature event before or after a major, I think that makes sense. I don't know that we need all of them together, space it out a little bit more and keep us wanting a little bit. If you go back-to-back weeks with a Rocket Mortgage and a John Deere, then an elevated event after that makes a little bit more sense because people are probably more excited for it rather than seeing these guys just play 4 weeks in a row and then not see them until the next major. Seems kind of silly, but overall, glad to see that those are over. No more no-cut events. So that's exciting. But Travelers was definitely great. And financially, it was by far my best week of the year. So definitely like that. And hopefully we can carry it over to this week, which is, as I said, a absolute shit show. It's a glorified Corn Ferry event. We have the Rocket Mortgage Classic played at Detroit Golf Club. Now, have a field of 156 golfers, top 65 in ties. So we're going back to a cut after 36 holes. Detroit Golf Club is a Donald Ross designed 7,300 yard par 72. Bent grass and Poa green, so similar to what we saw last week at the Travelers. Now, they do combine 2 courses to make the 18 holes. There are 4 par 3s, 4 par 5s, and 10 par 4s. 2 of the par 3s play over 200 yards. 2 of them are like around 160-ish yards. The par 4s are very easy. One of them is like 635 yards. Maybe not a great chance for a lot of guys at Eagle there, but it still boasts over a 30% birdie rate. So definitely got to capitalize on the par 5 scoring this week. It's going to be an absolute birdie fest. As far as the par 4s go, we have 3 of them from 350 to 400 yards, 2 of them from 400 to 450, 4 from 450 to 500. Now, there's a lack of trouble here. So the rough is somewhat long, a little over 3 inches. Maybe we could see it get up to 4, depending on how much water they've had there recently. But really, guys don't care. They're bombing it off the tee. We've seen the average drive at about 295 yards here, with over 50% of drives going over 300 yards. So guys are hitting the driver off the tee and basically just trying to bomb it out there as far as they can. Now, obviously, being out there a little bit further makes some shorter approach shots. So about 40% of approach shots come from that 125 to 175 range. So definitely going to want to look at those 2 buckets of wedges of 125 to 150 and 150 to 175. Definitely going to have to rely on those quite a bit. Now, another 20% do come from over 200 yards. A lot of that comes on those 2 par 3s that are a little bit longer and the par 5s. But really, I'd be looking at the wedges this week. You definitely want guys that are good with those wedges. And it's easy to hit these greens with shorter approach shots, 72% greens in regulation percentage. So definitely easy to hit greens. Now, if you are missing greens, not necessarily the end of the world. But if you are missing too many greens, probably not going to be up there contending also. So missing greens, not really too troublesome, but don't miss too many. Scrambling around here is a little bit easier than tour average. So, like I said, if you are missing greens, we could see guys chipping in here or saving par, but par is not really a great score here. Definitely got to be scoring birdies. Can't emphasize that enough this week. Now, oddly enough, we have seen some of the leaders over the past couple years lead the field in sand saves. So maybe that comes into play a little bit with the amount of bunkers that are around here. But I don't know. I really am not looking too much around the green or sand saves. Basically, what I'm looking at this week is going to be a little bit of off the tee, maybe some distance, but really looking at that approach with the short wedges and putting inside 5 to 10 feet, 10 to 15 feet. Guys are going to absolutely need opportunities gained, birdies are better gained, par five scoring, and you're going to have to be hitting your wedges, hitting these greens, and making putts because we're probably going to see somewhere around 20 under the bulk of the scoring done here. We've seen winners, I think the shortest we saw was 18, but it got really windy that year. So definitely go on guys that are capable of winning a shootout at 24 under. So that's what we're looking at this week. If we dive into the field, luckily we don't have Scotty here, so hopefully my bets can actually win. And really what I did is I went right back to the well of what I did last week. So I bet Tom Kim and Bhatia, and you can make a case that you don't want to bet the top of the board here because I do think that this is a field and a course that plays to some long shots. It's going to be an absolute birdie fest. But with that being said, I mean, if you take last week even out of the picture, Tom Kim and Bhatia are in incredible form. And I think this is a wonderful fit for their games and the state of their games right now. So I got a boost. I got Tom Kim all the way up to 18 to 1. I probably would have taken the 12, but the fact that I didn't have to, I absolutely love that I got him at 18 to 1. So love that. I got Bhatia at 23 to 1. I'm absolutely going to be playing a bunch of them in DraftKings. And if this wasn't Tom Kim's ninth week in a row, I might even consider lock button on him. I do think that he is the best golfer in this field. Now, granted, he's only 11,000. That's pretty high for this field, but it's not Scotty Scheffler. So I'm interested to see where his ownership comes in. I don't think it's going to be as crazy as what we've seen with Scotty because I don't think that people are going to hold him that high above a lot of these guys under him. But the fact that we do have the 5K range is kind of silly this week. I just don't think it's necessary. These guys are all scrubs. You could price them all in the $6,000 range, and I don't think it would matter. So I do think we're going to see a lot of stars and scrubs builds this week with Tom Kim and Jam and a bunch of these guys at the top because you have so many options down low that you can pay down for. But I do love Tom Kim. Absolutely going to be playing him. He will likely be my highest owned. Right now, I don't know where I want to go with Cam Young or Minwoo Lee. Kind of going to let ownership decide that. Obviously, with the Cam Young 59 on Saturday and look pretty good to start Sunday, I do think that gets a lot of people back on his bandwagon. Minwoo Lee always has a following, so it's going to be interesting to see if those two cannibalize each other as far as ownership goes. And then we have Alex Noren, who's extremely safe, but I think in a birdie fest, I don't know that a lot of people are going to go there. And there's just other guys I like. So I said I'm playing Bhatia, definitely going to play a ton of him. Taylor Pendrith looks like he could be very popular here. So definitely got to keep an eye on that. I do think that it is a course that fits him pretty well. And obviously, he's great with the par five scoring. If he can get his putter going and get a little bit off the tee going, I do think that he is definitely in good shape here. But as I said, I definitely want to see what his ownership comes in at. So Steven Yeager has been incredibly consistent too. He makes a lot of cuts. He's played well at the Rocket Mortgage. I think 2 top 10s his last 2 times. So as of right now, I think he's going to be in the player pool. And then down below here, it's going to be a lot more sporadic. I'm basically honing in on some guys here and not really going to spread it out too much. I do like Bobby Mack, just the state that his game is in, I think fits pretty well here. 16th at Travelers. He missed the cut at the U.S. Open, first in the Canadian Open, obviously. He's gained strokes off the tee in 5 of his last 6 tournaments. So do like him there quite a bit. Then right below him, Keith Mitchell, I do expect to be pretty popular, but obviously from a ball striking standpoint, the guy has been phenomenal. 2nd in opportunities gained, 7th in birdies or better over the last 24 rounds. So he looks like he's going to be a good play, definitely going to be pretty popular. So want to see how high he gets. Another guy that's getting some steam is Davis Thompson. Now, hasn't really flashed a lot of upside at 8,300 in this field. Maybe you don't need a ton of upside, but I do think it's a course that fits him well. But if he's getting up there too much in ownership, I'm fine going elsewhere. Going back to Michael Thorbjornsen, just a guy that I made a huge case for him last week. I'm going to write him up again this week. He's going to be one of my core plays. I think this is the next superstar. Very similar game to Ludwig, where he's very long and straight off the tee. I think it's going to play very well here. Had a little bit of some hiccups last week, but also put together a couple good rounds and had some flashes. So I do like Thorbjornsen quite a bit at 8,000, and also made a bet on him at 50-1 with a top six each way. Would have liked a little bit better number there, but that was all I could get with the each way. So definitely wanted access to that each way. And he is definitely on the card this week. Mark Hubbard, I think I'm going to play quite a bit of. Another guy, I don't know necessarily what the ceiling is, but 7,700 I think is a good price for him in this field. And he's a guy that basically makes every cut. So he should be pretty safe. And I do like where he is at. Next, going to play a lot of Matt Wallace. This just screams Matt Wallace to me, not only the course, but he tends to beat up on weaker fields. So I could absolutely see Matt Wallace going off here. 7,400, I think, is a very good price for him. Now, also could be a first round leader bet. We've seen him get off to hot starts and then cool off a little bit on the weekend. So that's something I'm considering. Nick Dunlap, same price, 7,400. I do think this is a course that suits him pretty well. Pretty good at the par five scoring. He can make birdies in bunches. So I do like him in this as well. Considering Lee Hodges, want to see what his ownership gets to. 7,100. Not really great recently, but those are big boy events. I think he can fare much better here. Eighth on approach over the last 24 rounds. He's fifth from that 125 to 150 proximity. So I do like him, and basically will probably come down to the putter with him. Daniel Berger's another guy. I like where his game is at only 7,000. I think it's a great price in this field. Obviously, he has not been playing up to the standard that he used to, but we do know that he used to beat up on these weak fields and run away with birdie fests on easier tournaments. So I do like him quite a bit. He's shown some flashes here lately. 13th at the Byron Nelson, 45th at the Charles Schwab. He did miss the cut at the Canadian Open, but also 21st at the US Open. So some good showings coming in, starting to look a little bit more like himself. 16th on approach, 16th off the tee over the last 24 rounds. He's gained off the tee in 8 of 9 tournaments. So he's showing flashes at only 7,000 in this field. I think he's a great play. I've made a bet on him also at 80-1 with a top six each way. In this field, you give me Daniel Berger, even if he's a shell of himself. This is not a strong field, and I think it's a good course for him. Next, Davis Riley is another guy that's on the bubble right now for me. 6,800, I think, is a pretty good price. Another guy that's great with the par five scoring, 8th in birdies or better over the last 24 rounds. He's good at the putting from 10 to 15, so he's probably, you're going to have to rely on those quite a bit this week for birdie chances, and especially saving par because you do not want to go backwards. So I do like him, but want to see what his ownership gets to. Next, considering Andrew Novak, just seems like a good fit for him. And then down here, I'm only playing a couple guys. I do like Justin Lower, 6,500, 9th in opportunities gain, 3rd in birdies or better. If you change the filter to easy scoring, his numbers get even better. So he's definitely someone that I think I'm going to consider in a birdie fest. Have some room on the card too for a couple more long shots, and he might make the card. So considering that, what do we got next? Nate Lashley's a guy that won here in the past. Hasn't really been playing great this year, but I do think he'll go overlooked and maybe worth a play. Another guy that's great on these birdie fests is S.H. Kim. 11th in birdies or better over the last 24 rounds. He's 9th in par five scoring. Great with the putter from the 5 to 10 range and 10 to 15. So definitely think that he can come out here and make some birdies. Definitely like S.H. Kim here at 6,400. Next, Neil Shipley, low am at the U.S. Open. Obviously, this is much different conditions than the U.S. Open, but I do think that this is another kid that can come out here and make some noise, and at 6,300, we don't need him to be competing for a win. And I definitely think that he could play well here and probably is just as good a golfer as a lot of the guys in this range. So 6,300 for him, I think makes a lot of sense. at the same price, 6,300 for Troy Merritt, has played incredibly well here. Want to see what his ownership gets, because at the Rocket Mortgage, he's come 17th, 14th, 2nd, and 8th. So people are going to see that, and at a Birdie Fest, probably want to play him. But I will definitely be getting there at Troy Merritt as long as his ownership doesn't get too crazy. Joel Damon, 6,100, second on approach over the last 24 rounds, first in opportunities gained. Really probably going to come down to the putter with him, but 10th at the Canadian Open, gained just over 4 strokes on approach. So do like that. He's gained off the tee in 6 of his last 7 and approach in 6 of his last 7. So do like where his game is at as far as fitting Detroit Golf Club. Probably not going to play a ton of them just because that putter is so volatile, but I would not be surprised if we saw Joel Damon up there come Sunday. Then down in the 5K range, basically only looking at 2 guys here. I mean, you could probably make a case for more of them, but I don't necessarily know if I want to get here. But Kelly Craft, I think he's going to rate out well for a lot of people statistically. First on approach over the last 24 rounds, third in opportunities gained. He's second from that 150 to 175 range. So he rates out statistically very well. I do think that a Birdie Fest is a place where, he can play a little bit better. Not the best finishes this year, but 42nd at the Canadian Open. Then he had a 13th at Byron Nelson. So do like that. Missed the cut in Puerto Rico, but had a 19th at the RSM prior to that. So I'm willing to take a chance on Kelly Craft at a pretty low price. And then the lowest I'm going to go is Nico Echeverria. Just this is a guy that plays these crappy events and birdie fests pretty well. So I'm willing to take a chance on him here. Had a 14th at Punta Cana, 15th at Puerto Rico earlier in the year. So these are the kind of fields that we're looking at this week. So I do think that he can come out here and make a bunch of birdies, and, very volatile player, but at 5,400, he allows you to fit a lot of those guys up top that I like. So that's really what I'm looking at for this week. So Rocket Mortgage, as I said, basically we want Birdie Fest. It's just look at guys that can take advantage of the wedges and make a ton of birdies. And it's going to be extremely volatile. So I would say definitely don't put too many eggs in one basket. Maybe differentiate a little bit. But down at the bottom, I'm going to be taking some stands and just kind of shotgun approach at the top, because I do think that there is a huge drop off in talent. There's a huge gap from the top to the bottom. So I do think that a lot of people are going to play stars and scrubs. So if you wanted to go a more balanced build, that immediately is going to get you more different. But to recap the betting board so far, what I have for outrights is Tom Kim at 18 to 1. As I said, just absolutely love where his game is at. Even if he didn't play well last week, I think coming in here, this is a great tournament for him. We've seen him win Birdie Fest before, and I love where he's at. And the fact that I got that boost up to 18 is an incredible number for who I believe is definitely the best golfer in this field. Then I'm going back to Akshay Bhatia, another guy just, lost the putter and a little bit off the tee last week. On Sunday, paired it in the final grouping, it's understandable, but this is a much weaker field. I definitely think it plays to his strong suits much better. So got Bhatia at 23 to 1. Then we have Michael Thorbjornsen, basically just coming out of college, his first real part of the tournament last week. Finished well, had some flashes. So I really love where his game is at. Definitely think that he's going to be a superstar going forward. 50 to 1 on him with a top 6 each way. I definitely think that he is one of the better talented golfers in this field, even though he's not been around for very long. Next, we have Daniel Berger at 80 to 1 with a top 6 each way. As I said, just he's a very talented golfer, has been out with injury for quite some time, but coming back and starting to show flashes. So I love Berger. When he was in form previously, he came in and beat up on scrub fields and in birdie fests. And that's exactly what we have this week. So you're giving me him at 80 to 1. I am absolutely fine taking it, even if he isn't the golfer that he once was. I do think that he can take advantage of this course and this field this week. Still have some room for a couple guys, looking at maybe Justin Lower, maybe some other guys at 100 to 1 or lower there, maybe Troy Merritt, just taking some stabs on some deeper guys. But that's basically all I'm looking at for this week. So as always, check out thehelmsports.com. We'll have the course preview already up over there, so you can check that out. Head to the My Bets tab. We'll have all the bets in there, or head to Substack, the HelmSports newsletter. Have everything sent right to you. All my final DraftKings thoughts, my final betting card, all my content for the week. This podcast will be up there, all that good stuff. So check that out. But that's going to do it for this week. As always, thank you for listening. Greatly appreciated. I am your host, Derek Helm. And remember,
just have fun out there.